Revenge films.
This story is about a guy that works at the same company as me. I worked at a mid-sized company which is quite profitable for its size. The guy that I work with, his name is Ted, and he loves to play pranks on other people. But his pranks weren't funny and his colleagues urged him to stop. We were all afraid of becoming a target of one of Ted's pranks. One time, I consulted my manager about Ted's pranks, but his response was not what I had expected.
I'm sure that Ted's only trying to add some harmless humor to the workplace. Nothing to lose sleep over.
I realized then that my manager wasn't willing to do anything about the pranks. I suppose my manager was cavalier about it because Ted only played pranks on his colleagues and not senior management. I was trying to figure out a way to get Ted to stop misbehaving. Ted enjoyed alarming people and making them nervous. In the beginning, Ted's pranks were quite simple. He'd suddenly jump out of a corner and surprise the person that was walking in his direction. But then he got bored and started doing things that were more harmful to his victims. For example, Ted approached his colleague Sarah from the back and popped a balloon by her ear. At the time, Sarah had been holding a cup of hot coffee in her hand, so when the balloon popped, out of surprise, she ended up spilling the hot coffee onto her body and she got burned. Luckily, most of the coffee spilled onto her suit, and so she was burnt too badly. If she had spilled the coffee directly onto her skin, it would have been much worse for her. Ted didn't seem to feel bad about what he had done to Sarah.
Here's some money to get your suit dry cleaned. It was so funny watching you spill coffee all over yourself.
As for Melanie, on the day of her birthday, she planned to leave the office early, but when she got to her car, she saw that someone had taken the air out of her tires. Melanie was distraught because she had dinner plans with her boyfriend to celebrate her birthday. Ted laughed at Melanie when he saw her reaction to the flat tires. Melanie had no choice but to head to her birthday dinner by train, but she was really upset because she ended up being really late. Both Sarah and Melanie were furious with Ted, but the biggest problem was that Ted felt no remorse for what he had done to them. I had been a victim of Ted's pranks several times myself, and to be honest, I detested him. But one day, Ted went too far with one of his pranks. That morning, the employees came into work as usual. As we began to work, we heard and saw an ambulance stop in front of our office building. "There's an ambulance in front of our building. I wonder if someone's been hurt." "Let's go downstairs and check." I ran downstairs with some of my colleagues to see what had happened. We learned that one of the team leaders, Cassie, had been carried into the ambulance and that she was bleeding from her head. "Could you tell us what happened? Cassie is one of our colleagues."
There was some lotion spilt on the office floor, and your colleague tripped and hit her head on the floor.
I can only think of one person who would spill lotion on the floor. We were all in dismay about what had happened to Cassie. Then, another colleague of ours came over to tell us the details of what took place. I was livid with Ted for what he had done. After Ted chose Cassie as his next target, he spilt lotion on the floor minutes before Cassie came into the room. He then held a bug in his hand and chased Cassie with it because he knew that she hated bugs. Because he knew that the lotion was on the floor, he avoided it to stop himself from falling. But Cassie, who had no idea, tripped and hit her head hard on the floor. Cassie had hit her head in a bad place and she lost consciousness. At the hospital, they discovered that she had fractured her skull. Cassie was very popular at her workplace because she was hardworking and good at her job. She was also a team player and supported her colleagues whenever they needed her help on something. We were all really worried about her condition and prayed for her quick recovery. At the same time, we couldn't forgive Ted for what he had done. He had gone too far this time. How many times do we tell you to stop playing those hideous pranks on others? What are you gonna do if Cassie doesn't regain her consciousness?
Why are you asking me this? Wasn't my fault that she hit her head. If she'd been paying attention, she would have seen the lotion on the floor. She should have been more careful.
Why would you spill lotion on the floor in the first place? You clearly put Cassie in danger. You knew that she'd panic if you chased her with a bug in your hand. You did this on purpose and you need to take responsibility for what you did to Cassie.
Do you have proof that shows that I was the one that spilled the lotion? Besides, do you even know who I am? I'm the son of the CEO! You should treat me with respect.
We had no idea that he was the son of our CEO. We were all kind of shocked to find this out. I realized that Ted and our CEO had the same last name, but it was a typical name, and I never even considered the fact that they could be related.
I'm going to take over this company when my father retires. He placed me here so that I can learn a thing or two about society. I can fire you guys if I wanted to, so if I were you, I wouldn't be so critical toward me.
I now understood why my manager was reluctant to do anything about Ted's pranks. All the members in senior management knew that Ted was the CEO's son. That's why they were so easy on him. But this does not excuse the fact that Ted put Cassie in grave danger. Even if Ted's father was the CEO, I don't think that Ted could get away with something so serious. Ted seemed to think that he was in the clear though. He even threatened to fire us if we went against him. I didn't want to lose my job, but I also knew that I had to stand up for Cassie. We decided that instead of going to senior management about this, it'd be best to talk directly to the CEO. But as it turned out, the CEO already knew about what Ted had done. The CEO was on a business trip to discuss the possibility of merging with another company. He heard about what had happened to Cassie upon his return. The CEO was furious with his son. He called Ted into his office. He asked his son if there was any truth to what he had heard.
It was just a stupid prank. Cassie wasn't supposed to hit her head. I wanted to recreate something that I saw on television.
You've got to be kidding me! What you did is a crime. It's attempted murder. I can't believe that you tried to hurt one of my employees. What you did is unforgivable. This company is not your playground. I need you to take responsibility for what you've done.
The CEO then punched his son in the face, and Ted fainted from the pain of being punched. The CEO visited Cassie at the hospital every day, hoping that she'd wake up from her coma. He apologized to her parents endlessly for what Ted had done to her. We also went to see Cassie in turns to check up on her condition. After 10 days of being in the hospital, Cassie finally woke up from her coma. The doctors ran some tests on her and told her family that there was no brain damage from the fall. Her parents cried tears of relief. Cassie's parents sued Ted for what he had done to their daughter and also reported the incident to the police. Ted was charged for attempted murder and he cried to his father for help, but his father wanted nothing to do with him.
You're an adult! You need to take full responsibility for what you did. I'm not gonna let you take over this company after I retire. You're unfit to manage others. You need to work on yourself first. I'm also cutting you out of the family.
Our CEO stole the stocks of the company that he owned because he no longer planned to give them to Ted. He then gave some of the proceeds to Cassie as compensation. At first, Cassie said that she didn't want the money.
You don't need to pay me any compensation. This wasn't your fault.
My son did this to you. This is my responsibility. Should have raised him better. I should have put a stop to Ted's pranks sooner. It's my fault for not realizing what he'd been doing behind my back. He put you in grave danger. I'm so relieved that no permanent damage was done to your brain. But that doesn't make the crime that my son committed excusable.
I was angry with the senior management because they knew what was going on, but they never felt the need to let the CEO know. The CEO felt the same way. If senior management had escalated the issue, Cassie's incident could have been prevented. He decreased the salaries of the senior management for a period of 6 months as punishment. After the trial, Ted was sentenced to time in jail. Cassie, on the other hand, was able to come back to work. It seemed that having a father as the CEO of a successful company gave Ted a distorted view of reality. He used his position to get senior management to listen to him and didn't make any efforts to learn the job that he was given. He promised those that listened to him that he would take good care of them once he took over the company from his father. Ted thought that money and social status could get him anything that he wanted without really trying, but he ended up losing everything in the end. I guess it was about time that he learned from his mistakes. I hope that he uses his time in prison to think about how he has wronged so many people in the past.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.